Ladies and gentlemen, Big Hairy News.
Hey, kia ora koutou te whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News. Kia ora, Chewy.
Kia ora, Pat.
I was feeling a bit yellow today, so you know, breaking up the yellow.
Why are you wearing the t-shirt?
How are you, man?
I see. Good. Yep. Dunedin is of course a war zone because of O Week. The students coming back.
Friendly fire though, so that's okay.
More
Friendly
down
fire.
your end of town though, so I'm not really too worried about it.
Yeah, lovely weekend actually. It was some nice weather. It was really windy on one of the days. I took the dog for a walk and I ended up spending half the time walking backwards because it was in my face was just too much. So walking backwards, throwing the ball. And I had one of the best days of the month in the weekend. You know, it's fresh sheet day. You know, when you put fresh sheets on, isn't that like the greatest? I don't know. People might say it's the greatest day of the week or the month, or if you're honest and you're a single boy, yeah, not sure.
Change of the seasons, mate. That's enough.
Fresh sheet day is a pretty good day, though. Love getting into bed with fresh sheet day. Lots going on tonight, whānau. We have Rawiri with us in the waiting room, so we won't mess around too much at the start of the show. Just welcome you on board for the week. Look forward to catching up with you. There's no other guests we've got booked in through the week who are probably going to cover off a similar, if not same subject, which we'll look at as well. Oh, Rawiri's gone. It's just fallen off. That's good. So that we'll see. Rawiri have to. Oh, there he goes. He pops back in again.
He's back again.
He's back. He's gone and he's back and he's gone and he's back.
He's playing podcasters peekaboo. It's good.
Before we do, we have a slight apology to make. I know when I say this, you always thinks I'm joking. This is an apology. And the apology is, and for the people who have already known, you may already be aware of this because I've emailed you all. We got a series of transfers sent to us so we could make our famous t-shirt. And the people who make the transfers removed the white border. So they thought that was the background and they removed it. And so they sent us ones that didn't have the white border, which means we couldn't make them in the weekend, which means they're sending them to us again. So I was saying to everybody, we'll get them printed over the weekend and out to you on Monday. They're going to be a bit longer. I expect we'll get the corrected transfers probably by tomorrow, if not Wednesday, and we will move heaven and earth to get them out to you before the end of the week. So apologies. It is one of those things that really is out of our hands. But just to let you know, there was an error with the transfer. We're getting it redone again, and we'll get them out to you this week. Which also reminds me, I can now say to you, look at the lovely website. And Johan's been working. Do you want to see, Tree? Watch this. Watch this. You watching this? The live stream. Watch.
Magic.
Ooh.
Oh.
Ooh. And then you actually push on it. Oh, full screen. Look at that. And there's some lunatic. I had to turn the volume down. So, and then you actually push on it. Sheesh. That. Oh, now I've got that all wrong. Chewy, what's going on? Get it. Go. Okay. Fixed it. Sheesh.
No, he hasn't.
No, I haven't fixed it. I'm just going to close that whole. I'm going to close that whole tab down. Imagine if I couldn't get rid of it and it was there the whole night. 8 seconds later, there we go. Got rid of it.
That's good. It's not that annoying. It's fine.
Nah, not at all. Tonight we're going to focus on a fair bit to do with the move on orders, aka making homelessness illegal, making it illegal to be homeless.
I wouldn't say that, Pat. What they're doing with homelessness is they're just towing it outside of the environment.
We should have played that. There's a very good TikTok as well by Tamitha and Chloe, which we'll probably play a bit later on tonight. And of course, finally, eventually, you know how they say the problem with being a liar is you have to also have the best memory in the world. The problem with talking bullshit is you also have to have the best memory in the world, or eventually you do mess up, like Mr. Luxon did this morning, saying he doesn't take advice from people. So finally, Shocking. It was revealed. And said out loud, wow. and there's been, funnily enough, very little pushback from the usual raft of trolls on various interwebs, social medias. And also Chippy's State of the Nation. Interesting. I mean, not much was announced. Pretty heavy focus on climate change. He spent probably the first first quarter to half of it on climate change. He did. People are saying they gave no way they're going to pay for things. He did talk about capital gains tax and some other bits and bobs as well. But it was a pretty sparse early messaging. Like there's no real concrete or real meat to get your teeth into. But I wonder, would you expect that? But it means that, of course, everyone's come out going, well, that was a waste of time. So you kind of think if they weren't going to give any more details, why did they do a state of that? It could have been anything. But anyway, we'll have a bit of a look at that as we go through the evening.
I haven't seen it. I'm purely going off the fact that Nicola Willis and Winston seem to be big mad about it. So
that made you happy?
Like really in there, like putting the boot in. So I assume it's good.
It was interesting that within minutes of it being finished, Seymour and Willis, I saw those two were out making public statements about how bad it was. And it did make me, it reminded me of that great Shakespearean quote, methinks the lady doth protesteth too much. Because I don't remember necessarily other sides when Luxon did his State of the Nation going, oh, it was so boring. I mean, Willis's criticism was basically it was boring. Okay. From the most boring politician in New Zealand, perhaps. But maybe that makes her an expert in identifying it. Anywho, we'll get to that a bit later on. We've spent too much time chin wagging away. So let's welcome to the show co-leader of Te Pāti Māori. It is Rawiri Waititi. Morning, sir.
Good morning.
Evening, isn't it? I don't know why I said morning there. I think because I said...
It's got to be morning somewhere in the world.
Yeah, somewhere in the world. Rawiri Waititi, thank you for joining us this evening. Good to see you again. We caught up with you at Waitangi, which was good. And we, before the show have been digging that knife into Chewy as hard as possible to make him feel worse about not coming up to make sure he's there next year. Fair, Chewy?
Yeah, it's been super good. Super good.
Yeah.
You missed a good week. We had good feed of oysters and a few bevies here and there, but we look forward to you next year.
And next year, of course, it's a Saturday night, so it's going to be huge. Big party time, Saturday night next year.
And with a new government, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Slick.
That was the
smooth, slick. I thought what we'd do, Rawiri, I think I do want to play the Chris Hipkins speaking to Mike Hosking this morning, just because they're two of your favourite people. I thought we'd include them in the conversation with you. But I actually think to start with, we just want to maybe step back and just get your initial feedback and I guess the 24, 36 hours of thinking over and talking over this move on order and if anyone's been living under a bus, giving the police greater powers to move on. Now they're talking about rough sleepers and homeless people, but if they have the ability to move on these people from a sector of city, I'm assuming that means they have the ability to move on anyone they want, because I don't know how you'd have a line of demarcation in there. But they're talking about rough sleepers, they're talking about homeless people, unhoused people, and banning them from an area for a period of time. I think they've talked about 24 hours. And if the people that they're trying to move on don't comply, up to $2,000 worth of fine, because famously homeless people have a ton of cash to throw around, or the government's going to be generous and give them a home for up to 3 months which is called prison. That's what they're threatening them with at the moment. So, Rawiri, why don't you just rip into it? Get us your thoughts. We want to hear your initial thoughts, Te Pāti Māori's initial thoughts as to what's going on with this move on order.
Oh, look, I've never seen something so cruel, in actual fact. What a cruel piece of legislation that they've moved. And I don't know, I think they're prioritizing business over people, over the well-being of people, policing the poor, punishing poverty. These are people who have, really hit rock bottom. And then to be able to use a punitive style approach to dealing with homelessness, I think is it's just disgusting if you ask me. And I think this government has hit an all-time low in actual fact. In regards to this, we saw it practiced maybe about October last year here in Rotorua. where they started to use the police to move people from a certain street. And again, these are people who now they say they've dealt with the emergency housing issue here in hotels, but in actual fact, what they've done is moved them back onto the street. And some of these people have no choice, and it's homeless, rough sleepers, and beggars. We're talking about people who have real big issues here. People who have mental health issues, people who have alcohol and drug addictions. You've defunded many of the kind of community initiatives out there in regards to being able to offer support. You defunded also Whānau Ora and their ability to move into some of those communities who had relationships with and subcontracting with other like-minded organisations to be able to deal with them. I could talk about this from a Rotorua perspective because I've been on this particular copa for a while. We're dealing with over 100,000 people who are living in poverty, and sadly enough, 60% of those are Māori. The highest percentage is Māori, Pacific Island, and those who have a disability. So it's just absolutely cruel. I think this is probably if you ever look at fascism, they start to, and you look at all the policies that they've moved is very similar to the Mussolini type, even Hitler type policies that he moved before he started to really wage war around the world. It's just the same type of policies. You attack workers, you attack the gay communities, you attack disabled people, you attack Indigenous, and then you use immigration as one of your ticket items. This is out of the very playbook that those fascist type of leaders used, and so this is what's folding out here, and people just have to open their eyes. This is a really, really cruel piece of legislation. It's monstrous, actually.
I was going to say the exact tweet I put out yesterday when it came out was the monsters, and you've said it's monstrous. Like it's the exact tweet that I had. Now, Chewy, I've managed to spend quite a bit of time with Rawiri over the last month or so. So you should jump into. You got any thoughts or questions that you've got?
Yeah, those were very close to my thoughts when I saw this in the news today. That it's callous, it's ghoulish. That they've decided to solve homelessness by making it illegal. They're not solving the core reasons that people are making the choice to sleep in doorways and under overpasses and under raggedy tents on the side of an oval next to a motorway here in Dunedin. To move them on, to criminalize it, to make it finable. When you're taking away people's ability to get off the street, they're not allowed in community housing. Our NGOs are underfunded. Our social services are underfunded and under pressure. Our hospitals can't cope with this sort of stuff either. So where are these people supposed to go?
To the next doorway.
Yeah,
to the next. They're just literally, and it's not a can, it's a human being that we're kicking down the road, next block, couple of Ks away, and then we'll just repeat that cycle. And the people that are excited about it are the people that I would expect to be excited about it. A local councillor down here, Councillor Weatherall, is pleased because it apparently scares the customers to his jewellery store. Now, I walk past these same scary beggars that are pretty much to a man quiet with a sign just asking for spare change or some sort of help. Look, this isn't the case everywhere. Like, different people, different results. But the end result is they're criminalizing someone that has fallen off the cliff before an ambulance is even provided. There's no fence at the top. There's no sign saying here's the edge of the cliff. There's no prevention. There's no help. It's just criminalizing. And we know that these people aren't going to be able to pay the fines. So it's off to jail. It's the perfect system. And it's exactly, it's just crystallizes what this government is. And I think seeing Luxon's comments today on Newstalk ZB, talking exactly to the people that will be excited about this, there's the sort of people that they salivate at the cruelness of it all, because it's never going to be them. To hear our Prime Minister, who said on election night that he was going to be a leader for every New Zealander, to just basically go, fuck him. People always criticise what I'm doing because it's mean and it won't work, and they're going to criticise me again. I don't care. I was stunned by that.
Hey, Chewy, I don't think it's these people are walking off the cliff. I think they're being pushed off the cliff. And so you've got councils have now removed any responsibility from trying to help these people, to moving it to a policing problem. What a over use of police resources who are already strained, to now having to deal with this. Was very similar to the gang patch legislation, where they just move the problem to another space. What you're going to do is you're going to see more crimes. I would be more worried if I was a jewelry operator and shop owner, because all you're doing is putting more pressure on these people who are already destitute, who have already hit rock bottom in terms of the lives that they live. They're living with no integrity. Somebody who can sit there at a doorway with a cup asking for spare change. I spoke to a reporter this morning from the Rotorua Post, and they said, I've spoken to some of these people who are rough sleepers and homeless, and they don't want to live in emergency housing. Of course, they don't want to live in emergency housing because that's too far away from their thinking. I said, you're dealing with people who have mental health issues, who have addiction issues, we need to be able to deal with those things first, in order to get them to a space where some independence and some reintegration back into the community can happen. But you cannot do that when we've got people who already having health issues and a health system that just can't handle them. It's absolutely disgusting. So what we've seen here is that the council made the moves last year, so much pressure that they've put now pressure on the government to make legislative changes to now start policing the poor and punishing poverty. That's what it is. We are punishing people because they are impoverished. That is, you will be judged by, the poorest parts of your communities. And New Zealand is a far-fetched from the green, clean, beautiful image that looks after its citizens. It's absolutely disgusting what we're seeing here, and the playbook. I can see where the playbook is happening, and we've seen it before in history. It created world wars.
On top of all of that as well, the police association, they don't want a bar of it, because I think they can see what's going to happen. So whatever your urban centre is, wherever you're watching us from right now, so the police tell person X to move on to the next street. Okay, then he goes and sits at the next street. And then the police go and tell him to move on from there, and then move on from there, and then move on. Because the question that's being asked very clearly, and I think very fairly, is move on to where?
Yeah.
And if a person does get moved on, then they can just get moved. And so these police are going to be spending all night, 20 calls based around one person, continuing to move them on from different places. And what I found interesting, we'll have a look at a little clip now on the Hosking show this morning, is that Mike Hosking was so dismissive of the police association's position. And of course, this is where we find out from Mr. Luxon that he doesn't take advice, literally says it. So let's have a bit of a listen to this. It's a couple of minutes long, but it'll give us the lowdown as to how Mike Hosking thinks that experts are nonsense. And Luxon says, I won't listen to them. This is the #1 rated radio show in New Zealand. This is what they're talking about.
We had the Police Association on in the last half hour moaning about these move-on orders. How much pushback do you think you're going to get from people who, for whatever reason, don't believe downtown Auckland and Wellington and Christchurch needs addressing?
Oh, I'm sure we'll get a lot. I mean, we got a lot on gang patch bans too. Do you know what I mean? I had everyone for a year and a half saying this is going to be operationally impossible to do. How are you going to deal with it? Remember all the questions we got leading into that one? And the police really thought through their response. They got protocols in place. The front line dealt with it, and within the first 3 to 7 minutes of the law being passed, they had their first arrest.
So can I just pause? We're not going to stop it. I want to pause there. We've got to be clear what Luxon just said then. Law was passed in the House. 3 minutes later was the first arrest. So we're talking about gang patches. Let's use that as an example. I leave my property with a gang patch on, and I'm legal. I go down the road and I'm talking to some of my mates, and then a law is passed. All of a sudden, I'm illegal, and then I'm arrested 270 seconds later, 280 seconds later. Luxon's saying this like it's a good thing. I think it's horrific. Like, whatever law you're passing to then enact it within 3 minutes of it. What, were they all on Snapchat together? Was it a group send or something? It's unreal. We'll keep going, and then we'll come back to this.
So we've got time between now and when this becomes law. Police will work up their protocols of how they deal with it. Every situation actually in that situation in the CBD is very different. Each individual's different. So yes, there will be move-on orders. I think that's important.
But you have no doubt that because the thing I'm picking up increasingly here is attitude. So it's one thing to say you're going to do something or you should do something, but I mean, if you listen to the police association, he's got no intention of moving anybody on.
Yeah, well, no disrespect. I don't take advice from people. I'm not.
Did you get that, Fano? No disrespect. I don't take advice from people.
No disrespect. I don't take advice from people. I'm not taking offence from that because I don't take advice from them. But I mean, I trust Richard Chambers. I trust our police. When I talk to our frontline police, so I've been out with them on the beat. There's been a huge increase of police out on the beat. In fact, we've had a 38% lowering of victimisations in Auckland CBD just in the last 12 months by having police out on the beat, by putting a police station down in the city. The police want these powers. They know these shopkeepers. They know these individuals in many cases. They have a wide set of circumstances. It's not just how we all stereotype them as folk that have mental health issues, addiction issues, whatever. There's a series of complications that are actually different by individual. The police will use their judgment, but I want them to have these tools.
There's a series of complications, he's saying. He's saying there's nuance to this, so what we're going to do is give you a non-nuanced law to abide by. Rawiri, thoughts?
Yeah. Well, look, I'm not surprised with his comments that he doesn't take advice. We've had record submissions made to select committees, probably the biggest lot of select committee submissions we've seen in this term that we've ever seen. So, like over 300,000 people submitted to the Treaty Principles Bill, over 100,000 people submitted to the Regulatory Standards Bill. So he's absolutely right. So that's one honest comment I have heard the Prime Minister make, is that he doesn't take advice. And that he's not going to listen to the Police Association, who already are under strain. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them when they say they probably won't do anything about it, because, hey, they've got bigger things to worry about than somebody who doesn't have a bed, sleeping in some doorway, which quite often they've moved by the morning. And then you've got those who are sitting there with a plastic cup, wanting change as you walk past. It's just, I'm flabbergasted that this, and even the type of questioning that Hipkins, Hosking has asked, it doesn't surprise me either. Is that he's got the support of that media outlet and many others, Herald, I'll just call them out. All of those media outlets, especially those mainstream media outlets that are out there to support and uphold their this government's agenda. It's just shocking.
Yeah. Chewy, thoughts on that Hosking interview? Interview, air quotes.
Well, look, Hoskins is exactly the sort of person that I would expect to revel in this. Someone who thinks that he'll never be in this position. He probably won't. So why feel empathy? I'm sure he looks upon these people as he looks at dog shit on his shoe. But as far as what Luxon is saying there, there's one particular thing that jumps out at me. Police will use their discretion. Now, we know, because there's been studies done and because it's all provable and we have the fucking numbers, if you give police discretion, they will use their discretion to come down on people a slightly darker shade than myself.
Yeah.
In almost every case. And those same people have worse outcomes through the judicial system and through into corrections. So every time you hear the police will use their discretion, shit that I would get away with, others won't.
Yeah.
That is bedrock, you know. And look, police have put a lot of effort into changing that, changing old attitudes. It's still there. They haven't solved it. Police, it's not their job. I'm sure there's some people that value their community and the police. I'm sure there's good ones in there. But overall, when you've washed everything out, we know what happens. Police are not the best people to be fronting this. They are not trained for it. They are not trained to combat these complex issues that Luxon has deemed to recognise, that things are sometimes complicated in people's lives.
True, there's not even enough-
police are...
There's not even enough housing. There's not even enough housing. There's not even enough beds. There's no emergency beds. There's none of that available to the people who are in this condition. And I say condition because this is the condition that society has created in order to, I would say, in order for the system to continue to feast on the dysfunction out there in those communities. They need people who in dysfunction. We need poor people to continue to feed the system. We need people to be incarcerated to feed the system. And I agree with you. You know, discretion means that Māori get 5 times more arrested, convicted, and imprisoned. And that's what discretion does. And I have no faith in the discretionary powers of the police, especially not for my people anyway. When I said that 100,000 people are homeless, 60% of those are Māori. This is us feeding the system.
Hang on though, because David Seymour tells us that Maori have it good and they're getting too many rights disproportionately. Rawiri, surely those numbers must be wrong, because that says 60% of Maori are amongst the unhoused. They're missing their homes. That doesn't make sense for what we're hearing in mainstream media.
Well, of course, there's a few bullshitting going on across the many numbers, and so you know you've got that one. 50% of the male prison population, Māori. 64% of the female prison population, Māori. You know, like I said, 100,000 people living in poverty, 60% of those Māori. And so, you know, those numbers might be a little bit out, but they haven't changed too much.
And this is the thing that we would constantly say to David Seymour if he ever decides to talk to us again. He's all for making everyone equal under the law. I support that. How about you start with the end of the justice system that doesn't impact you, your friends, and your funders? If you started to make it equal at that end, the end that doesn't affect you, I'd probably be with you, David. When you're starting at the other end that are the people at the private schools, and then you're saying that they should get better, then we kind of part ways.
Yeah, but how much is this going to cost the taxpayer? How much is this going to cost the taxpayer for rough sleepers, beggars, and homeless sleeping indoors? It was a bit like the gang patch. So the gang patch was 8% of the it was 0.008% of the population, right?
Yeah.
And so that was the population they were dealing with the gang patch legislation. So they're rewarding themselves for a small part of the community. They will do the same with this. This is only a small part of the community, probably even less than the gang patch legislation.
Yeah.
How much is this going to cost the taxpayer? Because I tell you what, if they were to put their attention into white collar crime and tax evasion, they would be saving this country $7 billion on the other side.
Yes.
The other thing I was going to say, and I do want to play one more clip. And there are a couple of questions that have come in for you, and hopefully we can get to some of those next. But I want to ask, like, I watch a lot of these American auditors, and they go and stand outside police officers, buildings or whatever, and they film them. And the police come out to them and they go, "Oh, we don't want you filming our building." And they go, "What crime have I committed?"
Yeah.
Identify the crime that I've committed by taking photographs on a public sidewalk and then I'll give you my ID. What crime have I committed? And I'm thinking the same thing about this, because even if you are sleeping in a doorway, that's a public footpath. What crime? Because the police are law enforcement. What laws are being broken here? They're not the feelings police because someone feels a bit icky because people are around. And Luxon actually kind of identifies that in this last this just 60 seconds, where he also points out who this is for. And this is for wealthy tourists who are uncomfortable in downtown Auckland.
There we go.
Quite literally says it. Quite literally says it.
Because this is retail politics, isn't it? The same way the economy affects the pocket, walking downtown affects people, and when they see that's not fixed, it's on you.
Exactly. I mean, but the bigger issue is like, you know, Chuck and Mary coming in for their once-in-a-lifetime trip to New Zealand on a cruise ship, walking around downtown Auckland, getting intimidated because someone's standing on the door, you know, sitting on the doorstep of a shop they're trying to get into, threatening, shouting at them, abusing them. Right now, it doesn't trigger an offence under, you know, other pieces, but by putting this in place.
Clear, whānau, it doesn't trigger an offence. No crime has been committed. No law has been broken. Luxon wants to sweep them away from Chuck and Nancy, or whoever he fucking picked an American name. Mary, who want to come and spend their American dollars at the Prada store in Newmarket of Auckland. So we'll just get to the end of this.
That helps. And, you know, we've got a massive investment in the International Convention Centre. We've got a massive investment in the CRL. We've got a huge amount of cruise ships coming in. We want to make sure that, you know, and it's not just our visitors, it's actually residents and families and people out for dinners, and, you know, just the stories are unbelievable. And this is New Zealand and this is 100%. Auckland, and we can do something about it.
No one's arguing with you apart from the unionists and
but that's normal.
All the apologists. As long as it's going to work. Is the key.
Yes.
Fuck.
Yeah. So Maya Angelou, I think it was, when people tell you who they are, believe them the first time. This is for wealthy tourists who want to walk around downtown Auckland unencumbered by having to see someone struggling and sitting in a sleeping bag. This is for the class within New Zealand. And look, I go out for dinner, so I'm part of that class sometimes. But the ones who don't go out for dinner are the ones sitting in the doorways, and we're not looking after them. So Luxon is literally saying, although I don't need your help, Luxon, we want to make this more comfortable for Pat to go to the club or the pub. That's what we're going, because we want Pat to go and spend his money there. Even more importantly, we want Chuck and Mary to go back to America and say, oh, no homeless people. Not like that Los Angeles. Los Angeles full of homeless people. Auckland, no homeless people. And that's because they didn't go one suburb out where the police have moved them all to. Rawiri.
Shocking. Yeah. So we've got to protect Chuck and Mary, who have come in for a 2-week holiday. And look, I've been out to dinner in down Queen Street. I've never experienced it. I see them, yes, and look, even here in Wellington, both Debbie and I, you know, if we go out for dinner, we've got kai that left over. We buy extra. We drop it off. We've always done it, you know, and they know. They see us pull up, and so you know, and the thing is, we've always done that is to make sure that that people are, you know, if you've got a bit of a kai in their puku, I can't offer them a roof over their heads, but look. We've got to be, when you're a lawmaker in this country, you will be judged by the poorest in society. You will be judged by the poorest in your society. And I think you know, if we had the power to be in government, which we haven't. I've been there 6 years. I'm going on to my you know, this election will be my third term. And I haven't been able to get around that table and be able to come up with the with some positive legislation that works with communities, that works with health organisations, that puts money where it should be, that builds a wealth tax, where we're able to do more for the bottom end of town, and those who are doing the rough sleeping and the begging and the homeless, because that's where we would put our priorities. Our priorities is not for the rich to continue to allow us, those who are working, to fund their lavish lifestyles, but as politicians, our job is to make sure that when the tide rises, everybody rises with it. You don't push everybody under the water. You don't push everybody under the water and ensure that they drown at the same time as everybody else is on their cruise ship with Chuck and Mary. You haven't even given them a kayak, for cripe's sakes. You throw them out to water without a life jacket, or with even without a floating device. So, this is why it needs to be a one-term government. This is the reason why it's this cruel, disgusting pieces of legislation like this that has an impact on a very, very small amount of people. And I would rather use the money that the taxpayer is using to enforce this, to build facilities, to give to community and health providers to be able to do better and do more with these whānau, because there are organizations out there that want to. You've got people who are feeding these whānau. They're making soups and kai and wanting to house them over those pieces over their time. But I tell you, this is just the most shocking, unloving, uncaring, mongrel government we've ever seen.
I actually think all those words being said, it's worse than what you've even described, Rawiri. Because you said they're out in the water with no flotation device. Actually, they're out in the water and then they're throwing them a cinder block. It's not just that they don't have a floating device; they're actually throwing them. Absolutely. They're throwing them a cinder block. There's a question or two that I wouldn't mind throwing at you from the chat. But Chewie, do you have any other thoughts or comments as we kind of wrap up this part of the conversation? Are you okay for a few more minutes, Rawiri?
Yep, all good.
Yeah, cool.
Again, I'm going to come to the aid of Chuck and Mary.
Good on you.
So I just want to ask Luxon, where are Chuck and Mary from? They said that this is a trip of a lifetime to come on a cruise down to New Zealand, a 2-week holiday to New Zealand. Where have Chuck and Mary come from? Pat, you seem to think it's America, where they've never had a homeless person ever.
Oh, never.
Yeah, it's a good bet, right? I've been to America, and I was stunned. Like, if you go to the States, that is a country with zero safety net.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you are a bad month away from living under an overpass. I've walked through Skid Row in San Francisco. It is shocking.
I was there.
The rich, it's mind blowing. One of the wealthiest country in the world, and they do it because they don't look after people. So this is what I want to ask Luxon. He is supposedly a Christian. I didn't hear any Christianity in his chat with Hoskings this morning. Heard no compassion, no looking after your neighbours or the least of us. But he's worried about Chuck and Mary, who apparently come from a place in the world where they've never seen a homeless person, and it's just shocking. And it's bad for brand New Zealand.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to add something to that because, I dig on my religion. And I've just looked this up now. I wasn't prepared for this, but Chewie, you just said it because I saw people talking about that over the weekend. Don't freak out, whānau. I'm going to read some stuff out of a religious book here. Matthew 25:35-40. I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty, you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. Truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of my brothers, you did it to me. Hebrews 13:2. Do not forget to show hospitality to the strangers, for by so doing, some people have shown hospitality to angels without knowing. There's plenty of them. When a stranger sojourns with you in your land, you shall do him no wrong. You shall treat the stranger who sojourns with you as the native among you, and you shall love him as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Another one, and you are to love those who are foreigners. It's obviously about strangers outside the land as well. For you were foreigners in Egypt. This might be more for Winston than this one here, but you're right, Chewie. It goes on and on and on about treating people well. I mean, like, you guys know who watch the show that I have a philosophy in our life around this, and it's looking after the widows and orphans. That's why I sit on the left. With any kind of religious life that I've had, it's about looking after the widows and orphans. Respectfully, it's not about fucking looking after Chuck and Mary. It's really not. It's upside down. We live in the upside down, Rawiri.
Well, he's taken the Pontius Pilate kind of view of the Bible.
yeah.
But
Washed his hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Judas, he defied Jesus for 30 pounds of
30 pieces of silver,
pieces
I
of
think.
silver. This
Yeah.
guy sold his soul to big business for less. And so what we've got is it's more fundamentalist, I think, where he's been bought. I would say that this whole coalition has been bought. If you ever look at them, Winston Peters been bought by big oil, big tobacco, big minerals. And then you've got ACT, the same big American businesses. And then you've got National has been run by big business, and so we've got a government that has absolutely been bought, and so we call this democracy. I don't think it is a democracy. I think this is a dictatorship, and we've kind of moved into the power of big business, international corporates, moving into to exploit our country and to exploit our governments, who have had no power at all over the decision making. We don't have any power. The people have no power over this particular government. It has been bought by big business, big companies, big pharma, big oil, big tobacco, all of it, big minerals. And so this is what we're up against. And so the people have to do the walking to the booths come November the 7th.
Yeah.
We have to make sure we get our people to the booths. We've got to make sure that they vote, and we've got to make sure this is one-term government. Otherwise, we're going to continue the pain across our communities.
And it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. I put out on, we did a clip last week and I put it on over Twitter over the weekend. And I'm being literal here. I'm not being hyperbolic. People will die if this government gets back in. Now, whether it's an easily collected, underfunded health system, not enough, like you can do it that way, or whether it's someone in the disabled community having their funding cut and it leads to it, this government will lead to vulnerable people dying.
Yeah,
like that's how I'm looking at it now. So yeah, and it's not just get out and vote, Rawiri. It's also reminding people that these guys have already tried to move the needle by stopping same day registration in those 13 days leading up to it as well. So there's 2 big days. Actually, we should be getting respectfully, you guys and those around you should be setting like up another day. Like we should have a big another day, like the two Sundays before, I think is the official day, going, this is the day. We should have a big event. We should have a big concert. We should do something around the country to make sure people are enrolled on that day, because that's really important as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So the early vote is just as important as November. So you never leave it for the last day. And I know some people have some traditions in their families where they do, but never leave it for the last day. You never know what's going to happen. So the early vote is really, really important. And getting our people out there. Not only that, did they change registrations on the day, they want to get rid of Māori seats. They want to take it to referendum. And even the referendum around the around the Māori wards, if you were to take collectively everybody that voted to keep them, across the country, there was actually more that wanted to keep them than got rid of them across the. Yeah. So Winston might not get what he wishes for if he went to referendum.
Yeah, Matthew Hooton, love him or hate him, and I know most people don't love him. He said that those numbers were 54% supported Māori wards, and he was like, Winston wouldn't win that. That referendum, he reckons. Hey, look, we've had you for a good amount of time. We appreciate it. I'll just give you a couple of, they're not really questions, they're more comments. And I think we want to just chuck a few out there. From Mike, thank you for the super chat. All proceeds of crime need to go towards rehabilitation, drug, alcohol, mental health, and housing people in need. Laura says, why do Chuck and Mary get more rights than Kiwis? Peter says, what a pair of ghouls. That was whilst the thing was playing. I got a couple here from Spider who haven't seen Spides for a while. G'day, mate. Luxon is building 3,000 new prison beds, but removed hospital beds down to only building 900. I know which beds I'd prefer to be built with my taxpayer dollars. We've got Joanne, thank you for the super chat. This is a very important conversation to have. Society is going to be a very dark place under a hard right influence. What's scary, actually, when you think about it, is they're this far right in term 1. Imagine if they get a second term. Imagine where they'll be going if they get a second term. I'm not going to get to everybody here, guys. Give the coalition of chaos, move on, orders of selection. There you go. And here's an actual question from Spider. Spider's got a question here. Sorry that's blocking your face out there, Rawiri. Here, I can be a good host, and I can do this. There you go. See you, Chewy.
Oh, demoted.
Spider Hoof has a question. Rawiri, how many times did you practice your "see you next Tuesday" speech? It was absolute gold. This government has just made being poor illegal in New Zealand, even though it is this government making them poor and homeless. Direct question from Spides there, Rawiri, if you've got any response to it.
That came, that wasn't even written on the paper. That just came. Tuesday was when the Hikoi was arriving to Parliament, and so yeah, it came out. But I've known that for a long time. Actually, an auntie of mine used to use it.
Oh, really?
Every time a certain person used to walk out of the room, she'd say, "Oh, I'll see you next Tuesday," and she'd say it all the time. And so I thought it was a prime opportunity to use it, and it just came out. Those who knew it, you could see them giggling in their house because they're
Yeah. Thank you for joining us tonight. Now, there's tons of things we could be talking about to do with what you guys are up to in the election, but tonight was really just about the move on order, so that's where we've pretty much stayed. Cheers for the time up at Waitangi, and we look forward to having you guys back on through the year, and I guess good luck through 2026 to see where we go from here.
Well, everybody listening, there's only one move on order that should be happening, November the 7th. Move this coalition government out of here.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right,
Nice to you, boys.
Catch you. Thank you. Cheers for your time. I'm just still going through these chats. That was great. Chewy, got any reflections? You go first.
Yeah, look, I think there's one thing that I'm going to zero in on. Of course, it was almost a throwaway line from Luxon. I trust the police.
But he doesn't trust the police association. Trust the police, but he doesn't trust the police association.
Are we back to automatically, just by default, trusting police?
Well, it's funny you would say that, Chewy, because I spoke to Tamitha today. We emailed a bit, and Tamitha was going to come on tonight, but I suggested maybe we do it tomorrow, because remember, Tamitha was the one who brought up some people in society don't trust the police, got slammed for it for 4 months, and then Mick Skimming and a whole bunch of those guys, information came out. We were kind of like, it seems that maybe Tamitha was right about some people within the police force. But yeah, obviously, full endorsement of every single human being within the police force as we're Luxon sitting right now.
Yeah, look at this page. This is just damning. So in the fallout of the Mick Skimmings thing, they've done a deep dive on people. There's up to 20 police staff being investigated for inappropriate behaviours and that sort of thing. And 6 staff have stood down. Others have resigned. Also on the same page, more than half of police are considering quitting.
Sheesh.
A quarter of New Zealanders report little to no trust in the police. Now, the reason that Luxon can be so blasé about, I trust the police, he's never been in a position of having that questioned.
Yeah.
And he never will. He's insulated. He's sorted. This is his whole problem. This is why he is the way that he is. He's always been on the right side of the rails. He's always been on the top end of town. He's failed upwards spectacularly. And so he has no concept of what would lead someone to be sleeping in the doorway of an empty shop.
Yeah.
Like
he probably
he's
doesn't
got the
have
fucking chocolate box life. You know, he's married his high school sweetheart. He's had a couple of kids. They're still together. He's gone from fantastically paying job to fantastically paying job, while all along not learning how to be a fucking human. I assume he goes to church. He likes to tell us that when it's convenient. What the fuck do they say to him? What lessons has he taken out of this book that is supposedly so important to him? Because I haven't seen a single fucking piece of evidence about it. It's starting to really fucking grip my knickers, I tell you what.
Grip my knickers, that's right up there with gargle my pisses. And I think we've got another one coming up there. Chewy undies, the grip my knicker undies. This government needs to be given its move on orders, says Raja, and Andrew says, I love your work, Rawiri. Keep up the good fight. Here's one that you starred. What about abusive ones? Should we be able
Yes,
to
now,
move them
want
along?
I want to answer this because guess what? If someone's being abusive in the street, the police can already move them on.
Yeah, it's already a crime. There is a crime there. There is a crime.
This is the whole thing. If someone is shouting there, ranting and raving at tourists, poor old Chuck and Mary, the police would be there. They'd be able to do this. What changes with this is that police can move on people who are doing nothing.
Yeah. I'm just going to put into Google who is Chuck and Mary.
So someone can have an icky feeling or just not like walking past that guy outside McDonald's sitting on a rug. You know, I'll be honest, like in the hardest, most stainless steel part of my heart, I don't like seeing homeless people either. It's just I would like the solution to be we don't have any homeless people left.
Yeah. I think
they all have homes now.
Yeah, you don't like to see them because you want better for them. Luxon doesn't like to see them because it makes him have an icky feeling, and then he needs to call the feelings police. That's actually what they're doing. They're calling the feelings. They're turning the police into a group of people who may or may not be carrying guns, depending on whether they are, or certainly in the car, who are going to turn up to typically enforce wealthy people's feelings. That's what this is.
To have homeless people here in New Zealand, an advanced, wealthy country that makes so much food, is a stain on us all, but it is spectacularly a stain on our leaders and our governments going back decades, because this hasn't happened overnight. And I want all of them to reflect on this. What can we do to save people from sleeping in doorways? What about the ones we don't see?
Yeah. Just to confirm as well, Chuck and Mary definitely are American. Chuck and Mary were an American brother-sister folk psychedelic duo from Illinois. So there you go. They're definitely American, okay. So Chuck and Mary are traveling the world, and they're definitely American.
Luxon just reaching for something relatable.
Yeah.
I'm going to have something relatable for it comes back with Chuck and Mary from the cruise ship.
It would be fascinating to find out who his seniors were at that deodorant company he worked for. I wonder if his name was Chuck. So maybe he pulled that out of the air somehow. Peter says, fill up your cars before Iran is hit. Are they going to impact the price of electricity, Chewy, to fill up our cars?
Unknown. I would assume that Iran is already covered by a huge array of sanctions.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely what Pete's referring to there is I firmly believe that they're past the point of no return, that Iran will be bombed.
Another one from Laura, which is cheaper, homeless shelters or prison? This government is beyond pathetic and wasting tax dollars. Well, I'm gonna actually play a TikTok from Tamitha in a sec, because her and Chloe got straight on the TikToks after this announcement came out, and we all know that to put someone in prison for a year is $200K. That means they're talking about up to 3 months. That means 3 months is $50K. Chewy, if the average single bedroom unit in most urban centres can be $500, $600, $700 a week, you can put them in a unit for $50,000 for like 18 months. As I think Spiderhoof said earlier, I know where I'd rather see my money get spent. But let's have the cool kids tell us about this. This was minutes after this announcement came out.
It is far more expensive to put somebody in prison than it is to actually house somebody.
Today, the government announced, despite all of the official and expert advice, that they were going to criminalize people who are
Chloe always has to bring up that they're not listening to advice. She's done so well as well, continuing that right through the term.
experiencing homelessness. This is off the back of their decisions over the last 2 years to intentionally increase homelessness.
First, they made it harder to get access to emergency housing by saying if you've contributed to your own homelessness, you won't get help. They've cut down the amount of public housing being built.
They have made young people on the benefit dependent on their parents. They have also cut down the accommodation supplement that is available to people who are on the benefit. They have reinstated no-cause evictions. They've also cut funding for food banks, despite knowing that 500,000 New Zealanders are accessing food banks every single month, notably as a result of the intentional economic decisions that this government has made to make the poor poorer and the rich richer. The government has ignored their own official advice. They have ignored experts. They have ignored community leaders, social service providers in the past when they made these decisions to intentionally increase homelessness in the first place. And they have told us that with these move on orders, they are going to have a select committee process to allow the public to have their say. So let's have our say. Regardless of this government's seeming intention to bulldoze our communities, the experts and the evidence, it is critical that we organise on the basis of the real solutions. We cannot let them get away with this.
Housing, not handcuffs.
There you go. There's a pretty good tagline for the Greens. Housing, not handcuffs.
Very good.
Like that one?
I also want to highlight here, there's an Auckland City Councillor called Richard Hills, who is always very, very good, but he's been so annoyed by this that he has done a multi-mega tweet where he just, as they say, lays out the receipts. Social housing, reduced accommodation in Auckland from 890 places to 39 in 1 year.
Shit.
In 1 year, cut emergency
So
housing
that's-
grants by 70 to 80%.
That's less than 5%. That's like 4%.
Oh.
Wow.
Since they did that, individuals rough sleeping in our city has increased by 100%. Today, they've announced anyone over 14 who is rough sleeping or begging will be required to move on by police or face a $2,000 fine or end up in prison. Vulnerable people will have to move somewhere far away for 24 hours. So I assume this means a park or a local suburb where there is less social support.
How are they
which
going to
will
get there?
create-
Like, how are they literally going to get there?
Well, they won't have to carry their stuff because the cops will probably just chuck it all out. They won't let them take it. This will create the same concerns just in other communities.
Yeah.
Housing and social agencies have made it clear to ministers that this is an issue caused by lack of housing and social support, while unemployment and the cost of living continue to rise. I have said directly to Minister Potaka and Minister Brown twice at stakeholder meetings that they have to reverse their policy changes. Until they reverse their policy changes, they'll only see homelessness continue to increase. I've told MPs on the shore that we're already seeing an increase in homelessness here. But simply moving people on will mean a lot of vulnerable people will come to the shore from the city to hide, sleep and stay. It is just shifting social issues around the city without addressing people's needs at all. Separately, it's obviously good to hear the police will also focus on addressing general disorder and threatening behaviour, but I would have thought that there was already a police responsibility and they already had powers to deal with it. Not all homeless people are disorderly or threatening, and not all threatening behaviour is from homeless people. So we're just creating a boogeyman.
Yeah.
In fact, crime in the centre city has steadily declined over the last 4 years while homelessness has increased. Some members of police I've spoken to said that they're concerned about this direction of move on orders and don't know how they'll actually be able to approach it. Our council teams and wardens already work with social agencies to help get support and homes to move away from shop fronts and other areas, but in a careful, kind way, working with the needs of people. Now, this is where there's a difference between police and social workers, right? Yeah. Social workers, they put in the work. They earn the trust. They know the people. They have to be reliable. Because these people that are in this situation have already been let down by multiple government organisations, right? So for a social worker to chip through that distrust, that takes work. Now, do you think a policeman waking you up on the street and telling you to move on is going to build up any sort of trust? No, it won't. So it won't solve it. So, yeah. He also reflects. Oh, don't want that one. He also reflects on the fact that this is something that has been a long time coming from a particular minister who's been crowing about it on social media. Auckland Mayor defends councillor's stand on homeless. This, by the way, is from 2008.
Okay.
Auckland City Mayor John Banks is standing by a councillor who has asked officials to look how homeless people can be removed from the central city, saying the problem has to be faced. Community Services Committee Chairman Paul Goldsmith says it's unacceptable for vagrants to be seen on city streets, and Aucklanders has had enough of what he calls a blight on the city. Mr. Goldsmith says he's asked council officers to investigate how homeless people can be removed from the central city area and, I assume, recycled into some sort of food.
Maybe some kind of mulch for the garden.
Yeah. He's not ruling out the possibility of arresting vagrants and says the council is determined to improve the situation.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? Because it's not a hugely uncommon name. It is the same Paul Goldsmith, 100%?
Yes.
Yes.
20
Just
years
checking.
later, Councillor Goldsmith, now minister, has finally got his wish. He gets to see homeless people arrested.
Oh my gosh. Terrible. I think what we'll probably do is just continue this line of conversation now and go into the actual news story, seeing we've kind of done the first part of it. And let's do that, shall we? So one of the big issues, especially for the police association, but it would seem, as Rawiri was just saying, one of the issues that should be for businesses is if you tie up police time moving rough sleepers, unhoused people, homeless people on, then they may not be there ready to answer the call when you call in an emergency. One News picked up on that thought tonight.
And the government's plan to give police move-on powers to deal with rough sleepers, beggars and disorder is facing further pushback. Some say police won't have the numbers to make it work and crime will sit unsolved, while those working with the homeless feel it puts more pressure on them. Donna Marie Lever reports.
Monday morning and Tama has taken his spot on the supermarket corner.
Adding your kid in that and doing it quite hard. Like, kid's got everything, but we go off out for the child, you know, so I come down here, have a bit of a beg in that.
He gets the benefit, but says it's not enough.
Well, this place used to be pretty good. You could sit here for an hour and make $100 and go away again. And now it's like you've got to stand here for like 5 or 6 hours and hopefully make 20.
Tama's situation is far from isolated as food banks and support services around the country are slammed. But plans to give police powers to issue move-on orders to those like him and the homeless are being questioned.
And when they move them on, where are they moving them to?
I just think that's the biggest, well, it's not the biggest question, but I mean, I didn't think about it until you were talking, Chewy. So if they're going to get moved to a suburb out, how are they getting there? Are the police going to then be taxis as well, or is the government going to start paying for Ubers to take the homeless person from the central city to one suburb out? Do you know what one suburb out is typically? Incredibly wealthy homes. Very close to the CBD, one suburb out. If you're in Auckland, it's Grey Lynn. It's Ponsonby. You know, it's very, very wealthy areas. So then what's going to happen is these wealthy people going to, oh, fine, yep, they've been kicked out of Queen Street in Auckland. They're just down Franklin Road now. It's no problems at all. We're happy with that. Of course not. They're going to be called again. And then when are they going to be moved? And how are they going to get there? It is such a, like, solve this problem, even though it's terrible, monstrous policy, answer that. Just that question. At least give us some information. How are they going to be moved and where are they going to be moved to?
Our concern, because you move them on, but there's no social housing for those people at the moment. Our accommodation for emergency accommodation is pretty full.
These people on the streets, they've got pretty deep issues, financial, emotional, housing issues, and it's not something that the police can solve.
And the new power could come at a cost.
It might be your burglary that's being delayed or not attended because cops out there picking someone off the street and moving them a couple of blocks down the road.
Every situation is different and police will make that assessment on the front line. They will be trained on the protocols. They have the connections to plug people in.
They will be trained on the protocols. Really? How? Because last time, and the example you're giving us, Mr. Luxon, is the gang patch. And you said on an interview on Hosking's that within 3 minutes, the first arrest had happened. So if they're going to be trained and protocols put in place, how are they going to get that 3 minutes after this thing goes into law that they're starting to move people on? See, I would think when I hear the word trained and they have the policies, they have the practice, that's called a social degree. That's called working with the homeless people. That's not like, okay, guys, here goes the email around the police and read it through and then you're qualified. This is all nonsense. This is mealy-mouthed because there's no way the police are going to be trained in how to move people on. Social workers do that, but social workers have a multi-year degree to get that qualification. So how are you going to train them?
That assessment on the front line. They will be trained on the protocols. They have the connections to plug people into social services as well.
Those who ignore the orders unlikely to be able to afford hefty fines of $2,000 or face several months in jail.
I don't see what's illegal about standing there for a piece of cardboard. Like,
nothing's illegal about standing there. That's the whole point. Luxon said in that Hosking interview, no laws are being broken. It hasn't risen to the level of a crime. There are no crimes happening. This is this government turning the police into the feelings police for wealthy people to not look at homeless people anymore.
I've got a suggestion for this fella.
Yep.
As we get closer to the election, eventually there'll be cornflake signs up around the place for various political parties. Ditch your cardboard, bud. You want the blank side of an ACT party sign, and when the cops come around, turn it around. You're just electioneering for ACT.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong. Well, I mean, morally, I have deeper moral concerns about him doing that than begging. If there's a question of what's more honourable, begging outside of a supermarket or electioneering for ACT, I think we all know the answer. We'd prefer that this guy was begging. But you see what I'm saying there.
Why don't we... No, I'm going to take that back immediately. Imagine
I can read your thoughts.
Imagine if these guys are getting move-on orders. Get out of the Auckland CBD. Okay? Now, there's a phone number to a group to help them move on. And where do they move on to? Maybe a property in Remuera owned by a family called Luxon. There's a nice grass curb there. Maybe they can go there. They've been moved on. They've done what they had to do. They are no longer in the urban centre. They are now sitting outside a house in Remuera waving to Mr. Luxon over there. Why not going outside Government House in Wellington? Why not move from Cuba Street and go there? You know, I just wonder if there can be an active protest in this whole thing as well. This is basically finished. We'll just get to the end.
how can they police that? Like,
More details on that are likely soon, with the government aiming to introduce the legislation in just a few months. Donna Marie Lever, One News.
Because that's what you do when you're not listening to the experts, is you want to get out there as quickly as possible and not have to look back. Oh, Chewy, what are we going to do?
Look, this is a gift from National. It is encapsulates and crystallizes exactly why they're the way that they are and exactly what we stand against. It is the whole reason that we are banging the drum so hard that this has to be a one-term government. It's 100% the reason that we talk to our listeners here and just basically go, you need to take this rage that I know that you all feel and weaponize it into action. And that is making sure that people are registered to vote, people that are informed about the issues and can combat the misinformation that's out there. It is taking that rage and volunteering for a political party, whether it's Greens, Te Pāti Māori, Labour, Alliance, anyone, as long as it's going to take this government out. They've got to go.
Yeah. And I look, at the moment, I just think I understand the sentiment of people wanting this to be a one-term government. I'm just if the left votes, it's as simple as that, whānau. So there is a French philosopher who coined the phrase, the people get the government they deserve, and if the left doesn't vote, you will get the government you deserve, according to a French philosopher at least. All right, Eric has a super chat here asking us some questions too. So let's do this and then we'll go to the last story, which is Chippy. Eric says, I'm assuming that's Eric, E-R-I-C-H. You're going Eric with that? I'm going Eric with that. Yep. Just wanting Pat and Chewy's opinions on the coalition introducing a bill that impacts people on ACC/WINS, which include people receiving supported living payment and abuse in care survivors. Just also adding to the previous chat, the bill introduced by Louise Upston on people receiving payments, ACC and WINS, has been condemned by people in counselling, family violence, reduction groups, etc. Well, not having read too much into that particular law myself, I would say I would typically side with the experts, unlike Mr. Luxon. And if there are people in counselling, family violence, reduction groups, etc., showing concern about it, I think it's warrant in being concerned about it. Chewy, you want to share anything? Thank you for those super chats, by the way, Eric.
It's just more bullshit from this government chasing rats and mice at the express exclusion of the top end of town, because we can't. We've got to pinch every penny. We've got to squeeze every little thing from someone that might possibly be on a benefit and ACC. It's so dumb. There's so much tax evasion that goes on. There's so much white collar crime that barely gets punished.
Yeah.
And we're going off people at the bottom. Like, it just doesn't stack.
I was just thinking some more about the move on orders, and I was thinking, if you're sitting outside Luxon's house and you got told to move on, you could then probably go to Seymour's house. And if you got told to move on, you then go to another minister's house in Auckland, and another, and just go round and round and round. Wonder what someone can set a record for move on the most times in one night. XLDS says, I hear tents on Parliament Lawn are okay. Move on. And 29 NI8 says, not into goodbyes. See you next Tuesday. That might have to be our sign off every Monday night from now on. See you next Tuesday. See you next Tuesday. Oh, speaking of sign-offs, the lovely, adorable, gorgeous, incredibly handsome and very sexy Yoan, who runs our website, got the script sorted out for the patrons to have the correct names now flowing in the credits at the end of the show. So luckily it wasn't any more than a week of balls ups. So you will see the credits tonight. They look a little bit different because we've used different fonts and stuff, but they are now accurate. Let me say to you this. Let me say to you that. Is that what he says? I want to say to you something. How does Luxon? What's his foible? Let me.
Oh, look. What I'd say to you. What I'd say to you is this. The credits now scrape the Patreon website. If you don't like your name in the credits, you can change it by changing your name at Patreon. Speaking of, Chewy, don't just take a minute, don't cry. We have dipped below 500 patrons. Just putting it out there. What did I do to hurt you?
We've dipped below. I'm just saying.
Hey, look, we did put a lot of effort into saying, hey, look, we want the ride or dies, the ones that want to stay. So there must be more of them.
There must be more of them. Let's worry about that tomorrow. All right, let's get on to the last story of the night, which is Christopher Hipkins and his State of the Nation. Now, I watched one news tonight. This is 3 news. I haven't seen this story, and it's a bit longer, so I thought we'd just use this one tonight, have a look together. and see what he had to say. Now, I know I watched it, and there was a lot about climate change at the start. It's also interesting by what there wasn't. There was nothing about crime. And I heard some criticism of him today. Oh, he didn't mention crime once. When we saw that research last week that said only 3% of people thought crime was an election issue. Maybe they're just going like, well, no one cares. But let's get the overall vibe of this, the state of the nation I think these things are so stupid. They've all done one, whatever.
Yeah.
Even the leader of Opportunity did a state of the nation. I was like, dudes, come on. All right, here we go.
Labour leader Chris Hipkins delivered a State of the Nation speech that was heavy on pointing out problems but light on solutions. He took shots at the government's policies on the cost of living and climate change and criticised its proposal to put a toll on the Auckland Harbour Bridge.
Well, he criticised the idea of putting a toll on the current Harbour Bridge. Labour is supportive of a toll on a new bridge, but they're just like, and Kieran said it last week, you don't put a toll on, and that's already been paid for, ironically, by tolls.
But as senior political correspondent Jenna Lynch reports, there was one thing he couldn't wait to get his teeth into.
Chris Hipkins munching a sausage roll. Must be election year.
The stakes have never been higher.
Giving his take on the state of the nation today, and it was pretty bleak.
We can see the challenges we face everywhere. People are working harder than ever and they're falling further behind. Groceries are costing more, power's costing more, insurance costs more.
And, well, pretty devoid of ideas. No new policy to kick off election year, perhaps gun shy from the broken promises of his last term at the helm.
I want to know that I can deliver on any promises that I make.
It's actually, this is the unfortunate thing with politics. The statements that he's making now, he basically said they're not going to overpromise and underdeliver. And it's actually I really appreciate that from a politician, but it doesn't create good headlines. And unfortunately, in an age where algorithms control everything and clickbait gets you places, you run the risk of being left behind in the noise of the day. Now, I'm for it. I'm for the, I know. You notice already the snide comment? The broken promises of last time. But yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. In fact, I've said it numerous times. When someone asks you as a potential prime minister, X, Y, Z about money, you go, well, I have to say, based on what things are right now, this is what we will be doing. Now, I have a caveat though. If we get in and there is a 7-week cyclone, things may change. But based on what we know now, this is what we're going to attempt to do. If it needs to change based on things outside our control, we'll let you know. Now, I think great way to talk, really bad headline, and not able to fit on a bumper sticker. That's the problem. And it's people like Luxon and Seymour that do the bumper sticker best of all. Oh, and the Greens, actually. Houses, not handcuffs. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
That's the standard that I'll be holding myself to and our next Labour government to. Because frankly, Kiwis have had enough of promises that aren't kept.
Chris, no idea Hipkins. That's what I saw today. Truly, ChatGPT could have written that speech, guys.
It's a line he's held most of the term, aside from Labour's capital gains tax and the 2 free doctors.
You could tell, She just tried to hit it. It was like exit stage left.
So natural. So just off the cuff.
Oh, come on, guys. Now, guys, we're just guys.
Tax and the 2 free doctors visits each it'll pay for, Labour's policy cupboard has been bare.
I come more in sorrow than in anger. I hoped this afternoon I'd be here to debate a new policy idea from the Labour Party.
There's still a lot that can happen in the next 6 months. The government's got a whole nother budget to deliver. The economy's in a fairly fragile state at the moment, and I don't want to make promises that I then have to change.
Hipkins clearly thinks the strategy of never interrupting one's enemy when they're making a mistake is a winner for him. The Labour strategists seemingly think that their best path to victory is people turning on the government rather than rewarming to Hipkins.
New Zealanders were promised...
I think that's true. I think the sound of the speech today was national bad. And, let's be honest, National got elected last time with Labour bad. It doesn't inspire me. It doesn't make me kind of go, this is the team I want to be a part of. I want to move forward. Like National bad is pretty uninspiring. Will it work for them? I guess time will tell.
that the cost of living would be fixed, and after 2.5 years, it's worse.
Part of the problem, as he sees it, are the smaller parties throwing their weight around in government and distracting from core issues with what he calls culture wars. The solution, freeze them out.
We don't have to have majority government. We should leave the option of minority government on the table if that's what we need in order to be able to, run government that's focused on the things that Kiwis need to see us focused on.
New Zealand has run minority governments before under Helen Clark and John Key.
I was just looking at that photo. Is that like the least happy person in the world? Look, Simon Bridge is there. Carmel Sepuloni on one side. Helen Clark, Barb Edmonds on the other. Oh my God. That's why he's looking straight ahead. He doesn't want to look left, right. Sometimes when the dog knows the cat's just there and it just won't look because it's terrified, it's like, that's the look. Yeah, bizarre.
Helen Clark and John Key.
Oh, just for clarity, I'm pretty sure minority government, the idea of minority government is supplying confidence. So like the Greens have done supplying confidence before. This is probably what they're talking about with Helen Clark. And they weren't officially a part of government, but they gave supplying confidence, minority government.
Practice, the large party is the government and may sign agreements with smaller parties for confidence and supply, which means they would vote in favour anytime they're asked to express confidence in the government and on issues of supply, like passing the budget. Everything else would be up for negotiation, issue by issue.
Well, the number one thing people want is stability. If you can't command a majority of the House to pass legislation, then you're living week to week.
Says Mr. 8%. Just adding that in there. Says Mr. 8%.
Piling more uncertainty on top.
I'm operating as part of a three-way majority coalition that's going just fine.
There is no...
Nicola Willis should never, ever, ever again use the phrase three-way. It should never, ever, ever come out of her mouth again. Please.
I'm operating as part of a three-way majority coalition that's going just fine.
There is no absolute requirement for majority coalition governments. We have one at the moment, and that's not exactly delivering stable government.
Hipkins argues it would allow the government to avoid things like the Treaty Principles Bill and defining English as an official language, leaving the major parties free to deliver what was promised.
I want to avoid all of that noise and focus on the things that will actually matter to New Zealand.
And as for all those promises Hipkins doesn't want to make and break,
no sausage rolls this campaign.
Will we count this as broken promise number one?
No, good God, Jenna.
Oh, for God's sake. Jenna Lynch just huffing your own farts all the way through that piece. Like, I would have liked to hear more of what was in the speech rather than Jenna Lynch putting snarky, bitchy comments all over it.
In fairness to Jenna Lynch, she kind of put snarky, bitchy comments all over all of them, bar last election she left ACT alone. No one really knows why she left ACT alone. But National was up for it. It's a mystery. We'll never know. But the other guys, pretty much fair game. Fair game.
But this is the thing. This is my criticism with our political commentators and the big media boys. Is I just want to know. I just want to know what they said. I wasn't in the room. I don't want Jenna Lynch's opinion of it. I don't want her clever little ripostes all the way through it. I just want to know what he said.
I guess the good thing, Chewy, is what we do have access to now, if you've got time, is any of those live stand-ups do get live streamed by several of them. So if you genuinely do just want to know, like I watched Hipkins' speech today, and it was on, probably ZB, and it was on RNZ, and it was on Stuff, and it was on the Herald, and yeah. So one of the things that's quite nice about media in this day and age is that you can most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, even if it's just a stand up with the PM, typically, the media outlets will put the full thing up online as well. So there you go, Chewy. Bit of work for you to do, son.
So here's my other question. How do we feel about Hipkins doing this to a dead room full of business roundtable people?
I was underwhelmed, right? I was underwhelmed with what.
How are they going to be receptive to that message at all?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was probably, he obviously used it as the time to put his messaging out there. Maybe the idea was, well, let's just put out there that we're not afraid of the business roundtable. They're a part of who we are. We can pitch to them. I was just a bit underwhelmed. I mean, when you set up I think most of us, when you hear State of the Nation, do we still think American president? Like, that's what I think when I hear it.
Every time. Which is why I hate it.
Yeah, but that's often a huge, it's done in front of the court judges. In fact, didn't Luxon didn't hit third time's a charm. Didn't Trump just do one to a half-empty chamber? I think that's right, isn't it? But these things just seem to be, here's our shop front at the moment.
Yeah.
Just I don't know.
Just as an aside, I'd love to see Trump do one to a full chamber.
State of the Union, they call it, don't they?
Yeah, State of the Union, and we're not a union, we're a country. But yeah, I just, when I heard that he was going to do a State of the Nation, and then I heard that it was in front of a business organization, I was just like, oh, I don't know about that, because you are like, I've done stand up to dead cold rooms before of people that are just not interested and just waiting for a break to go to the bar, and that definitely felt like that, and that is hard work to get any sort of reaction that might look good on the news piece that's being recorded. Like, he needs to be doing these things in front of a hot room full of people that are reacting positively to what he's saying. Like,
yeah,
I am glad that what I've read is that there is a big chunk of the climate being front-footed in there. That is a good thing, in my opinion. It's one of the top things on my wish list. But, we get no reaction to it. We get Jenna Lynch being snarky all over it. It's hard to build momentum off something like that if you're someone that doesn't have the ability to go out and look for the live stream or that sort of thing, and you're just taking your cues from the news.
Just for clarity, State of the Union is tomorrow, probably the day after, Wednesday, New Zealand time. 9 p.m.
It'll go for
Eastern
4
time.
hours.
Tuesday.
It'll make no sense. Biden and Obama did everything wrong.
Oh, you've just reminded me.
And the bombs are falling on Tehran as I speak.
You've just reminded me. You get little wake-up calls occasionally. I had a wake-up call the other day because I had a clip come across. I'm trying to find it while I talk to you. I had a clip come across, I think it might have been my TikTok, which was Obama speaking. just speaking. Just Obama speaking. No, maybe it wasn't. And it was just, just look at like someone with an ounce of sense speaking. And it was just just to see what that country lost versus what they've got now, it was just unreal. I can't find it. Anyway.
A friend of mine sent me something earlier today talking about George W. Bush.
W.
It's apparently not mentioned in the Epstein files. There's no blackmail there. And he bombed the Middle East just for the love of the game.
I think we might be almost done. We've got some more chats and stuff there to get to. Exaldia says, Nikki, where's our boats, Willis? Peter says, is Donald Trump or John Barron? Is it Donald Trump or John Barron?
Yes.
That
Did
was
you get this reference?
Yeah, his media person.
No, someone called into a live TV show doing a reasonable Trump impression as John Barron. And they had it for a little while and then cut away when they realized what was happening. It's pretty funny.
There was, when Trump was in office, sorry, not in office, he used to answer the phone as his own PA.
Yeah.
And pretend to be his PA and sounding exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's kind of bizarre. It's kind of bizarre. I was just going through. I can't find it. It was such a good clip as well. It was like 5 things that Barack Obama had said that was just legendary. And just the eloquence of the man versus, God, what you've got now. The thing is, it will be really well viewed. This thing will be really well viewed because it's like watching a train wreck, like the State of the Union. It'd be like watching a train wreck.
Mm.
Anywho.
Yeah.
I'm giving up now. Chewy, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to do me a favor. I need you to pick a number for me.
24.
I can probably do that. That'll probably work. Because last week we gave away a full house to someone who purchased some Ditch the Pricks merch. Again, if you're just joining us, apologies. We had a problem with our supplier and they printed the product incorrectly. So we needed them to do it again. So we'll be printing those T-shirts this week. Also means, though, if you get your order in the next day or so, you can also get your merch probably sent out late this week. So we're looking at bhn.nz. The Ditch the Pricks T-shirts and hoodies are right there. Get in there and order them for yourself. And we'll do this again, another one of these for this week. People who order the Ditch the Pricks, I'm going to go in full screen. Hang on, so everyone see it. Go into the draw for the full house, which is all 6 current enamels. There's going to be more enamels in this because we've got a Ditch the Pricks enamel coming. But you get those retail value of $75. And you said 24, didn't you?
I did.
I've got to take this down or else I'm going to pull something else from that screen. Hang on. From screen number 4, 24. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Deborah Robb. Congratulations, Deborah Robb. Deborah Robb from Clyde. I'm going to drop it off. Deborah Robb, you have won yourself the full house. That there.
Nice.
Which will be included in your package. And in fact, Deborah bought a Tax Work, Less Tax Wealth, More T-shirt and a Ditch the Pricks T-shirt. If you would like to go in the draw for another full house, retail value $75, then all you need to do, I'm just going to move that back off the screen so you don't see all of Deborah's personal details and her voting record, because we keep that as well, is head to bhn.nz and go and have a look at the Ditch the Pricks stuff. And while you're there, you can also have a squiz at all the other stuff in the shops. We got T-shirts, we got hoodies, we got enamels. Look, see, there's the full house right there. That's what you're going in the draw for. Hey. And we got stickers as well. And we have made some new orders for stickers. Chinese New Year's just wrapping up at the moment, and so we will be getting them done after that. We are getting some Ditch the Prick stickers, and we're getting some BHN stickers. We're getting a Ditch the Prick enamel as well, which is coming, Ditch the Pricks. So all of that's going to be very time-coded because, of course, Ditch the Pricks in 26 might seem a little bit relevant this time next year. But we'll get them there for you. Oh, someone said mugs. Probably not doing mugs, I'll be, for Ditch the Prick, sorry.
Look, you might get these stickers and be tempted because, I mean, at first blush, they do look absolutely perfect for that slot just up from the button at pedestrian crossings or on parking meters, that sort of thing. Don't do that. That's bad. Don't put them there where everyone can see. That would be very, very bad.
We do not endorse any kind of vandalism done in our name. We reject it. Iran, the pizza tracker is quiet, nothing yet.
Do you know about this, Pat, or is this too weird?
I think it's
military sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's weird military stuff then.
Okay, so one of the things that is said that you can work out whether America is going to war.
Pizza's being delivered to the Pentagon.
Yeah. Domino's pizza tracker for the locations closest to the Pentagon.
Pentagon, yeah.
I also saw someone going, I'm looking at military Twitter accounts just to see if anybody in one of these big carrier groups that are in the Mediterranean gets served a dinner of lobster and steak out of nowhere, because that's generally a sign that you're going to war tomorrow as well. So, yeah.
Okay, and then there's one here from Ika Maki. Once again, I'm proposing a moratorium on everyone named Chris in Parliament until we figure out what the hell is going on. I know one of the things is the biggest chance of Luxon being rolled is by another Chris. So, and then all the journalists will spend the second half of the year going, well, the one thing can be for sure, the next Prime Minister's name will definitely be Chris. What we did there. That's what we did. All right, Chewy. We're good. We're going to get to play the credits now, and they're the new credits based on the old credits, but it's now good to go.
New, fully automated credits.
Yes. All right, Whānau. Thank you for being with us tonight. Thank you, Rawiri, for giving us some time tonight. Fuck you, government, for the move on orders. It's disgusting, and it needs to not happen. I'm not entirely sure how else to say it. And we'll see you tomorrow night from 9.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work out what they can't afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting peas from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a warpath to run, linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A and a self and a higher in mind. All have a lean either this way or that, and will be analyzed by what you and Pat. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's Big Hairy News.
That's it for me, True. You got anything to wrap up with that you want to put out there?
No, apart from our continuing mission, which you all are aware of at this point.
And of course, we'll see you all next Tuesday. See you next Tuesday. See you next Tuesday. Hoorah, team.
Cheers, fam.